Greetings, I'm Edward Wanlineham, also known as Dr. JD, and welcome to my video blog, How to Win a Murder Trial Against All Odds, as well as my podcast, Criminal Justice Today. This episode 7 follows my episode 6 on clemency, pardons, reprieves, and commutations, where I talk and discuss how the term clemency is simply an umbrella term for the other terms, reprieves, commutations, as well as pardons. But I also discuss how implicit clemency has been introduced into the United States of America through President Donald Trump, and how implicit clemency has also empowered our local governors, like right here in the state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, to grant implicit clemency to white supremacist judges, like right here in my home county of Sumter County, Florida, where judges are allowed in the name of white supremacy to commit hate crimes and domestic terrorism in the form of fabricating evidence, fabricating people, fabricating events that never occurred, planting drugs on black lawyers like myself, hoping and praying to their devil or Satan that their wicked methods and tactics would provoke an outcome that's just as evil and wicked as the methods and tactics that they are using to retain power for white supremacy. Too many here in the United States of America are still unaware that it's our judges who are really upholding the evil wickedness that we see often play out in the media by police officers and other lesser people who are not elected to government. But it has been the judges who have been committing the most egregious crimes in the name of hate and domestic terrorism to promote their beliefs of white supremacy. And these are crimes and acts that many people see who work in the criminal justice system see, but they're simply too scared to blow the whistle and say something, so they remain silent, meaning that they themselves are complicit with the hate crimes and white supremacy strategy implemented by these judges and people in power. And they also knowingly do that from day to day while still calling themselves Christians. But I'm going to explain during this video blog why these people are not Christians. Christians do not comport or go along with these type of evil things that are designed to divide the races as a propaganda tool that subliminally teaches white superiority and black inferiority. I cite in my published memoir, Lily's Dad, that even as a child growing up in Orlando, that I could see white supremacy playing out all around me, especially when I watched television, especially the evening 6 o'clock news, where religiously almost every evening there was a suspect, brown-skinned black man, maybe 6 feet tall, 220, 30 pounds, who was a suspect for maybe a homicide. A description propagated almost every evening on the news that would encompass almost all of the black men that anyone knew, therefore subliminally placing in the minds of white people that they should fear their black neighbors and all of black people with whom they associate. And all of that was still my observation, although I grew up as a privileged black kid. A black kid who went on vacations to the Bahamas twice a year, had a motorhome, and went on vacations like the Griswolds. Although I had this privileged childhood that wasn't enjoyed by the majority of white children, these white supremacy methods and tactics were still very obvious to me as a child, even as a privileged black child who enjoyed all of the privileges as would even a privileged white child. So the time period I'm talking about is in the 1980s, even when the Jim Crow era separate but equal laws were all made illegal by federal mandate. We still saw this type of propaganda reaching our eyes and ears, subliminally teaching both whites that they were superior and blacks that we are inferior to the whites. Methods and tactics that are still being used today via our television sets as well as our radio. But as we know, we have now entered the era of social media where it's endless and we're reaching people not just locally but worldwide. But before I begin with mass media and how it's been used here in the United States to influence and propagate white supremacy, we must go back a few hundred years. Not to slavery by Europeans of Africans off the west coast of Africa through the Middle Passage, but a couple hundred years later, right there in France and Germany, where you had scientists like Charles Darwin, inventing scientific theories that would eat at the fundamental precepts of Christianity, such as Jesus Christ, the Messiah, could not have been a supernatural figure who performed miracles. So to have an intellectual conversation about race and racism, we must go back to this period that preceded the American Revolution that was occurring in Europe, the period or era called the era or period of enlightenment, when all these scientific theories started to propagate, Charles Darwin being one of the primary figures. And before going into that detail, I must say that right here in the United States, our ministers and pastors have done all of us a great disservice by confusing and or commingling the Greek term ethnos, which is our English term ethnicity, with the term race that was created in Europe during this period or era of enlightenment. Right here in the United States, white evangelicals too often like to commingle those terms, although only one of them is found in the Bible. And we know ethnicity deals with nations, people from nations, whereas race was invented during this period of enlightenment to solely deal with the color of your skin and your characteristics, while presenting a lie that there's some type of biological difference between the color of your skin and the color of my skin. Now, I know that you're going to go do the research on your own about this period or era of enlightenment in Europe to learn for yourself that it was scientists like Charles Darwin and his theories of survival for the fittest, but that even before that, his theories attacked creationism, meaning people who believed in his type of scientific theories cannot and could no longer believe in Adam and Eve, in creationism, that God created the heavens and the earth. All of that was thrown out the window during this period, along with any belief that Jesus Christ, the Messiah, performed supernatural miracles like healing the blind or being raised from the dead. No longer believed in the fundamental tenets of Christian orthodoxy. And thus, these people were no longer Christians, although even today, white Christian nationals still believe in these things. So what I'm presenting to you today is that these people are not Christians. People who call themselves Christian, who believe in those fabricated scientific theories that came out of the era or period of enlightenment, are not Christians because they don't believe what's written in the Bible. They don't believe Jesus Christ was supernatural. They don't believe in the stories of the Gentile Cornelius and how from that story we're all considered equal in God's eyes. No, they believe in these fabrications that based upon race and the different colors of our skin, that we are biologically different, meaning that the white skinned ones are superior and the darker skinned ones are inferior. I'm here to tell you today in this video blog that there are tens of millions of white evangelicals who believe this, and they still call themselves Christians, although they are anything but Christian, meaning they are anything but people who believe God created all of us equal and God made all of us in his image, and that the teachings of the Apostle Paul, who teach us these things, are true. They don't really believe those things. They talk about it, but they really don't believe it. So in closing, part one of this three-part series, Race, Mass Media, and the Law, I know that you're going to go back and do the research yourself and better understand the period of enlightenment or era of enlightenment that preceded our American Revolution. I know that you yourself are going to go back and understand how the scientific theories that came out from that time attack creationism, substituting it with the theories of evolution, attacked Jesus Christ, our Messiah, saying that he didn't heal anyone. He didn't rise from the dead. He did not have any supernatural powers. How these scientists between France and Germany and even England conceived and even presented all of these theories to Europeans, which was primarily the basis to soothe their moral conscience, to make them feel better about enslaving blacks and Africans from the west coast of Africa. The evil that came out of this time by these scientists was rooted in justifying the slavery of not only black people, but also the persecution of Jews, Because when you do the research, you'll learn for yourself that these scientists also propagated false satanic theories that suggested that whites were chosen by God, not the Jewish people. And that's why during our long history of racism here in the United States, the white church has never spoken out against domestic terror organizations like the KKK, who are proudly anti-Semitic. I'll say that again. The white church has largely been silent about the fact that these organizations that burn crosses, who cause domestic terror and scream a Nazi brand of anti-Semitism, they don't have anything to say about it, because at the root of their beliefs is this satanic nonsense that came out of the period or the era of enlightenment that is rooted in scientific theories to make them believe that they are superior, that they are a form of gods chosen by our God in heaven to wreak evil and havoc on all others who don't look like them, despite it being totally antithetical to Christianity and everything found in the Bible. That's all for part 1 of this Race, Mass Media, and the Law video series. This is Dr. JD, and I'll be back very soon with part 2. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.